What's good with the YouTube? You already know. Real Talk with Flacco. I'm Flacco right here, coming live and direct. And on this platform, what do? I dive into sensitive issues, delicate matters concerning prison, gangs, community, recidivism, as well as addiction. And today, man, I got a very interesting topic we're going to dive into. We're going to discuss the NF Civil War that occurred around 1980. Maybe a little bit earlier before that, man, but we're going to get straight to it. There's been a lot of misinformation that's been put out there, man. A lot of things have not been established as far as who, what, where, when, why. How did all this occur? All we hear is different allegations that have been put forth out there. Now, I've been able to do a lot of research as well as touch base with some individuals that were NF members at that time. And I came across some interesting information on how all this occurred. And it's important for individuals to know the history of what happened and how certain things, betrayal and corruption, can occur even as way back in those times. Okay, so what people don't realize, all this started with an individual named Lobo from Watsonville. Okay, he was an NF member. Now, he ended up getting arrested, brought to the county jail. And back then, before you get a parole violation, you were supposed to get bailed out. And the NF used to bail out its members at that time. Now, the money was provided to an individual named Pilo from Salas. He was instructed and given the directions to go out there and bail out Lobo. So he ends up not doing this. The rumors and speculation of what's been told to me is that he went out drinking and partying with the money that he was supposed to bail him out with, and Lobo ended up catching that parole violation. So Lobo returns to the system, and he's pissed off about it. And he spoke out, and he told a certain NF member named Ezekiel Lopez Conejo, who I believe was from Gilas, who was a relative of Black Bob. Okay. All this information was provided about regarding this incident. So at that time, there was also allegations that were occurring in regard to Death Row Joe, and even Bobble. Death Row Joe was basically, at that time, he had caught a case and he was using the funds to pay for lawyer fees and so forth, thinking he was going to be able to beat this indictment. He later on ends up flipping. In the process of that, not only was he doing that, he was taking donations from other carnales to try and basically trying to justify it that he needed it for his legal fees. Now, this is where Babo starts to get caught up in the mix. Conejo pretty much placed a lot of the blame upon Babo, and he was calling for the impeachment of Babo at that time. Now, what occurred with that is that what Conejo didn't know is that Babo had already put Death Row Joe under investigation. There were certain individuals that were guided about this potential impeachment, that pretty much stood by as far as supporting Conejo if he found out the information to be true. So at that time, there was an investigation that was put together on several people. And you're going to trip off some of the names I mentioned. Black Bob was one of them. Conejo, Babo, Linda, now a female, Linda Sosa. Okay. Females had a big role at that time within the organization. A lot of times they married other people's family members. So all this stuff about females and whatnot, that they weren't affiliates. They could never get certain tattoos put on them like NF or so what. But they could sit there and associate in other terms. They used to wear Nuestra Familia shirts, represent. They used to do all kinds of things back in the days, man, that people don't realize. So she was under investigation. Perico, from I believe Perico was from Salas, as we all know, Saldivar, and as well as an individual named Snake. Now, in the process of all that occurring, a lot of the investigations, Babo was locked up fighting his indictment. Now, there's nothing worse than trying to fight an indictment while also being under investigation. He lost a lot of influence, a lot of pull based upon that. Now, the individual that was able to seize the opportunity about this ended up being Black Bob. Now, somehow he was able to convince the committee that was investigating all 6 of them, right? He was able to get a pass and cleared of whatever wrongdoings. All 5 were found guilty of some type of infractions and so forth, right? And at that time, you had other individuals like, Hobo was picking sides, different individuals, Fig, From my understanding, Fig really was pushing the agenda as far as, whatever the Constitution says, this is what we're going to go by. I know that he received a little bit of backlash based upon that, because Black Bob was able to basically manipulate his position at that time. You know what I'm saying? And from my understanding, Black Bob was on thin ice at the time. What people don't realize is that he never bought a body. The alleged incident that he took out in AB in 1974 is not true. He was actually rolled up for that. And he was not to hold any position. Those were the directives that came when Conejo came and touched down in DVI, was Black Bob was not to hold any form of position. You know, okay? So eventually, because of all this and the investigation, who knows what happened, he pretty much was able to fall and file. Now, in addition to this, you know, what else was going on was there were certain C's that were being provided information that were not filtering up the ladders like they were supposed to. Big Smiley, Art Ramirez. He was given instructions by, I think, one other canal. I know Fig gave him some directives as well as what to present when he got to the casa where he was going. At that time, Fig and them were facing indictments. I think they were at first in Soledad, then they got transferred to Chino State Prison. And so from there, when the directives got there to basically to DVI, which DVI was a stronghold, they had a lot of new recruits, a lot of youngsters at that time. And they were basically being led that there was going to be no more, no more abuse of authorities, no more tyranny. You're not going to be treated like slaves and so forth. You know, we're going to go back to the old ways where we're doing time and so forth. This is what was basically presented to a lot of individuals. So they became supportive of it. And when Smiley got there, he didn't relay the message as instructed. Things got twisted up. You know what I'm saying? And see, what people, like I said, don't realize is that Bobo did take action against Death Row Joe. No one realizes that. He had already opened an investigation. Now, that's not to excuse some of Bobo's actions, which I was told that, you know what, there's certain things that he wasn't right, but there was a lot of other things that were not right with an organization that people seen. And so the Constitution was pretty much thrown out at that time without any type of, proper procedure. You know, the Constitution had been around for a minute, so a lot of certain C's felt a certain way about that. But then you had the new wave of young C's that were all supportive of it. We want to take the Familia in a different direction. It's failed under Death Row Joe and Bobo. There's too much misappropriation of money, and nothing is being garnered or generated on behalf of the organization. And the Lobo incident was one that was being addressed very heavily. You know what I'm saying? So at that time, that's when a lot of things changed. There was no more Constitution, and they were reformatting everything. Certain individuals from the old felt a certain way, but the indictment started to impede them. You know what I mean? While they're facing life on multiple murders, Black Bob was able to finesse his way into an authoritative position when he should have never held any type of authority, they say. You know, a lot of people were pissed off about it, that were elders, that had put in work, that had made those sacrifices. But some people supported it too because it put them in a better position for their leadership role. You see what I'm saying? It's basic prison politics. It's the same stuff that you may be seeing today over the last 20 years with the state and Fed. Except for you got people politically playing it a whole different way. But a lot of these old timers had been through it. And, a lot of those individuals were basically cleared of any wrongdoing. Conejo was basically played by his own brother-in-law because Conejo was basically had such a high position at that time. He would have been next potentially in line to take over the general position. So his potential impeachment of Bobo pretty much backfired on him. And Black Bob was smart enough to, Black Bob was very crafty. Okay, he couldn't read that well. He couldn't write that well. None of that stuff. But up here, in application and how to finesse things, he was very talented. So he was able to take the O in that direction, not based upon his smarts or anything like that. He took opportunity when it presented himself. Somehow he was cleared of any wrongdoing, right? Now, as this continued the trend, that's where you had the Civil War, basically. You know, Bobo didn't want to let go. You know what I'm saying? Other carnales didn't want to let go. But you had this new wave of youngsters. You know what I'm saying? You talk about the incident in the book regarding, when they tried to rush Fig on the yard. And what ended up happening with that, I got a little bit more details on that. When that occurred, Sundown ended up getting shot. That is a true story. That bullet was meant for Fig, okay? When they came out, which was Pinky and another carnal came out, only one of them was able to drop their piece. You know what I'm saying? One of them was having trouble dropping the piece. It got stuck. And so in the process of everything happening, they ended up getting rushed quick. In the process, when that happened, Pinky and the other dude tried to take off and get out to the gate, asking the guard to open the gate to get out. That's from my understanding of eyewitness accounts. And what ended up happening from there is that the guard would not let them out because one of them still had a piece in his hand. And those were the rules at the time. Eventually, we had the shooting and so forth like that. Things got scattered and things were over. You know what I'm saying? But when Pinky got back to his tier, he was pretty much held like a hero. You know what I'm saying? But from my understanding, really nothing even happened. You know, and this continued. You know what I mean? Eventually, you had the separation. You know what I'm saying? Some people were able to come back or offer the opportunity to come back. But in the process, there was a lot of good dudes that ended up getting hit. There was directives that were coming from the Bobo faction. They were going to the side of tier where it was the Black Bob faction. Now, two of them had kites. Manzanas from New York and T-Bone from Salas, also known as Poppy. Now, what ended up happening when they entered over there and submitted reports to the Casa, both these individuals submitted kites. No, excuse me, only Manzanas submitted his kite. T-Bone did not. So they ended up killing T-Bone or Sailor Boy on behalf of that issue. This is one of the killings that Corny committed, where the rod was basically sticking through the dude's head, and he straight died. Now, one time, T-Bone, I think, was a number 2 captain, believe it or not. He may have been at that time, but when they were restructuring everything, everybody got stripped of their positions. You know, so a lot of politics were being played, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of things were being, a lot of the information, right, that was being provided by certain individuals was being embellished, or they were spinning the narrative to assist them whatever they wanted politically. You know, everybody expected things to be changing to where, oh yeah, they're going to be back out there in the main lines. They're going to be back out there, slamming dope and so forth. They were going to be a little bit more lenient on past procedures. And a lot of the carnales were open to that. See, they had something that was a selling point. And from my understanding, it wasn't that there was anything wrong within what the NF was doing, but there were certain things that could have been improved on to make the hint they feel better as one. You know, and a lot of it had to do with a lot of killings that were occurring. You know what I'm saying? You had individuals that were being killed out there over drug usage when more than half your members are drug addicts. You know what I'm saying? Your general was fucking shooting dope out there in the streets. That's a fact. Death Row Joe was not a drug addict. You know what I'm saying? So he was able to take advantage of that. Basically, you know what I mean? And being able to give those directives and having people hit and so forth. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, Death Row Joe was pretty finesseful. He played the cards as best he can, but eventually things were being exposed and no one knew what the end result was. What did really happen? You know what I'm saying? Bobo was cleared of a lot of things personally by a lot of individuals they feel. You know what I'm saying? But Death Row Joe takes the blame for most of it. And it doesn't mean Bobo was innocent. Who am I to say whether he should have been expelled or not? This was a different time era. There was a lot of things we do not know about. But a lot of things I've just discussed are all public record or things that you can check into. You know what I'm saying? You know, and this was a hard time for the organization at that time, and it took them about 7-8 years to basically recover from it. You know, they went from having high numbers to now they're being sent to the shoes. They're being separated. You know, certain members were falling out of favor or just walked away from the oath because of what happened. And a lot of people had a difference of opinion. You know what I'm saying? You had the Black Bob, Brown Bob, Tibbs, Hobo, Corny, all these on this side. And then you have people over here like, you know, like Bobo, Fig. I'm trying to think who else may have been on that side. Maybe probably Puerto Rico and them, Snake. You know what I mean? All vicious individuals. You know, and those indictments kind of separated everything. You know, and it's also my understanding. I was just talking to someone else that was, you know, around at that time that where the feds at the time dropped the ball. They could have really severed the NF severely at that time because there were so many people that were within the organization willing to testify during the Bobo faction that there would have been a lot more names added to that list. They didn't capitalize off it. They didn't expose it. They just already had enough. You know what I'm saying? They wanted to scale back the murders. They wanted to focus on that. They didn't realize that this was going to turn into a power killing machine in a continuous fashion. And as far as his illicit activities out in the streets, things changed. You know what I'm saying? Look at it today. You know, it just seems like there was a big cross up. And little people don't know the facts of how this all started, man. It all started with one individual. And I find that kind of ironic that, you know, because of one person's actions over here and over here, it became a way bigger issue. People started to ask questions. Well, where's the money going? I mean, those were the main things that were being a focal point in regards to what was going on within the Civil War. You know what I'm saying? It didn't last long, though. And I think a lot of that had to do with the way administration took care of it. Those indictments also hurt individuals. And a lot of people just said, you know what, F this, and walked away. You know, there's rumors that maybe Big Smiley was a reentry. I don't know. I just know as far back as then, he basically twisted up a situation and did not report the information that got one Garnal in a cross. You know, this is sometimes it's real important for us to know our history. You know, we're given a lot of information that sometimes comes from biased sources, sometimes comes from news articles, and sometimes even comes from CDC document reports. And it doesn't mean it's ever accurate. You know what I'm saying? And we could also have 5 different individuals that were there at that time give you 5 different versions of what happened. So that's my disclaimer when it comes to this, but I guarantee you a lot of what I just said is going to be factual truth. You get what I'm saying? And these are the type of things that were going on. Prison politics at its worst. You have convicts, con men trying to do the greater good for an organization, but you got all these vices and characters. Corruption, betrayal, selfishness, ego. All those were on display during this conflict. And that's why you had so many dudes that were actually good carnales that had been putting in work and were fine just being a foot soldier who just walked away. Because you always have those that are worrying about ascending to a position of rank. And they will go to the extreme, to any limit, to try to acquire it. You know, and that's a sad thing. Because when your main focus is about power and control, you lose sight of the overall collective, of that this is supposed to be a well-oiled machine that works towards common goals. You can't work towards common goals when you have selfish individual goals. It's never going to exist, you know? Anyways, man, this is just a quick spill, man, that I wanted to drop for you guys, man. I hope I gave it as accurate as I got it. You know what I'm saying? I talked to a couple people about it, and there was a lot more details, like I said, than what people know. I'm pretty sure that there's even more deeper insight into other events in regards to this, you know? But this is what occurred, you know what I'm saying? Those 6 people were under investigation at that time. Like I said, I was shocked when I found out a female was under investigation. He said, yeah, at that time, certain females had just as much pull, you know, especially the way that they operated, you know. This NF member would be married to this NF member's sister or cousin and vice versa. That's how it used to go back then. And they kept it close-knit within the family. Therefore, they had trust. It didn't have to go through other outsourced links, you know what I'm saying, to push, you know, their agenda at that time. You know, and this is a big factor because at this moment after this, the whole structure of the NF changed. You mean having the paramilitary structure that came more prevalent as far as then more of a chain of authority with the 3 generals, the Mesa, the OGB, and so forth that came forth after, you know, in the voting process. And a lot of that was just justified because of what happened with Death Row Joe. Death Row Joe created this system, you know what I'm saying? But all it did was put certain individuals that were campaigning in those leadership positions to have that vote. If you it's like if you have 13 people and you got 9 people plugged in that are going to push any agenda you push because you maneuvered right, or you guys have a pact, no one's ever going to stand in your way. You know, and to make decisions and have people's lives, you know what I'm saying, basically expelled and took, you know, it's on their hands. It's all up to them. And if any one of them is corrupt and has already infiltrated the rest of these members and has dirt, they're always going to win every time. Anyways, the truth about the Civil War. NF1, NF2, I think that was just an administration title. I don't know. No one else mentioned it. But there was 2 separate entities of the NF. You know, full out war. It did not last long. And there's a lot of reasons why. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, I've been rambling on. I hope you enjoyed this, man. It's your boy Flacco. I'm gone.